Alright guys, tonight I'm going to show you some of my 1994 Finest Football Refractor PSA registry set. I'm currently number 1 on the registry. I'm right at 81% complete. So here we go. First one up, Jay Schrader, PSA 10. This one is a Pop 1. Next up we have Pierce Holt. That one's also a Pop 1. Lincoln Kennedy. You can kind of see a little bit of the shine there on these refractors. These are very condition sensitive for those of you that haven't really ever collected this set. They have a lot of centering problems, surface problems, scratches, little surface dimples, you might call them. Here's Cortez Kennedy. This one is a Pop 2. Next up we have Craig Erickson. Some of you guys might remember him from the Miami Hurricanes when he was in college. Next up, we have Jay Novacek from the Dallas Cowboys. Part of a lot of those great Super Bowl teams they had in the 90s. Jay Novacek, that one's a Pop 3. A lot of Cowboys collectors out there. Next up, we have Thomas Smith from the Buffalo Bills. That one's a Pop 1. Garrison Hurst. One of those guys who, he was a great player for a couple of years. Just didn't really have the longevity of some of the other great backs, but he was good for a while. Roosevelt Potts, Indianapolis Colts. That one's a Pop 3. Demetrius Dubose, Tampa. That one is actually one of the easier cards in the set for the common guys anyway, and that one's a Pop 6. Next up, Irving Fryer, one of Dan Marino's favorite targets. Next up we have Don Beebe from the Buffalo Bills. Don Beebe, that's a Pop 1, as was the Irving Fryer. Hardy Nickerson, linebacker, Tampa Bay. Pop 1 on Hardy Nickerson. Albert Lewis from Kansas City. That's a Pop 1. A lot of these refractors I have self-subbed, and it's probably, I would say out of the PSA 10s, I have 44 PSA 10s. I would say a little over half of them were self-submissions. As you can see in the background, I've opened up my fair share of boxes. This probably represents maybe like, I don't know, 1/5 or 1/6 of the boxes that I've opened up over the past couple of years since I started working on this project. Pat Swilling, Pop 1. Oh, the great Nick Lowry. Everybody loves kickers. Nick Lowry, that one is a Pop 2. Santana Dotson, defensive tackle for Tampa. Pop 2 on Santana. Curtis Conway, Chicago Bears wide receiver. That one's a Pop 2. This was actually the first self-subbed 10 that I got out of this set. Jackie Slater for the Rams. I think in that first submission of these that I sent in, I probably sent in like 60 or 70, and I only got 110, and they were all opened out of boxes by myself. Andre Rison. He is well known for his off the field personality, probably just as much as his on the field, but he was a great receiver at one time. That's a pop 1 on Rison. John Copeland, defensive lineman for the Bengals. That's a pop 2. Jeff George. I can remember when Jeff George was a rookie, you know, he was supposed to be like the next all-time great quarterback. Didn't quite pan out for him. I mean, he had a good career, but definitely Tom Brady, he is not. Derek Brown. This one's actually a pop 3. I think I actually have 2 of those in a PSA 10. Neil Anderson, Chicago Bears running back. This is a pretty tough card here in the set. I don't know how many of you guys out there collect this set or are that familiar with it, but I think this is a pop 1. I think the next highest is like a PSA 7. There's just not very many of them that are actually worth even trying to submit. Carlton Gray, PSA 10. That's a pop 3. Victor Bailey, pop 2. And a lot of these guys that I'm showing you right now, they're some of the more common guys. Like, even though they are still condition sensitive, hard to hit 10s on, I've kind of saved the star power for the end of the video. Mark Rippon, pop 3 for the Super Bowl champion. Carl Mecklenburg from Denver. That's a pop 1 on Mecklenburg. Willie Roaf, great offensive lineman. That's a pop 1 on Willie. Here's one of the better defensive linemen of all time, Howie Long. That's a pop 1. This was actually one of the first PSA 10s that I actually bought for this set. Lawrence Taylor, pop 2 for Lawrence Taylor. You know, there's a lot of people consider LT to be one of the, if not the best defensive player of all time. Here's another Hall of Famer, Rod Woodson. That's a pop 1. And one of the most probably underappreciated Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and it's, you know, because he didn't spend his entire career in the NFL, Warren Moon. He put up some crazy numbers. Warren Moon was kind of like a modern day quarterback back in the 80s and 90s. He was putting up, you know, numbers like the guys today are back then. It's a pop 1 on Warren Moon. Some of these next cards I'm going to show you guys, like, some of them are, you know, great players, but the big thing with these next, you know, few that I'll show you is they're like some of the short prints, which this is the first year that Topps Finest was out, and this set is similar to the baseball refractors from '93 and also the basketball from '93, as there are certain players that for whatever reason are just tougher to locate at all, and then some of them are like super condition sensitive. Here's one of the short prints Art Monk. This one's in a PSA 9. There are no PSA 10s on Art Monk. There's 3 PSA 9s. The great Derek Thomas. He's another one of the short prints. His card is very notorious for being off-centered. And you can see on this one right here, the centering is what kept this card out of a 10 holder, the top to bottom centering, as well as the left to right, mostly the top to bottom, but that's a PSA 9. There's only 2 PSA 9s of Derek Thomas, no 10s yet. The next short print, Kevin Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. This card there is currently 3 PSA 9s of that one with no PSA 10 yet. Reggie Cobb, another one of the short prints. This card, I think there's one PSA 10, and then this is the only PSA 9. This one was actually, I got this as a BGS 9. I actually cracked it out and sent it in on one of my submissions, and was happy to get that in a 9 holder. Next short print, Eric Swan, PSA 10. This one is a Pop 2. This is a short print, and this one is normally just horrible centering on this card normally. This is a Pop 1, and I was really super glad to find this one. I actually got this card along with a couple of others from one seller, and he actually had this one as well. This is one of the short prints that's also very tough. This one is a Pop 1. And then the next card, believe it or not, is actually considered to be the key card if you're trying to complete the set, whether it be raw or obviously graded would be even more difficult. Glenn Milburn. This is very tough to find. PSA 10 on this one. This one is a Pop 1. I think there's also 2 PSA 9s out there, and I have one of those. This card, when it comes up for sale on eBay, I've seen it pop up for sale from, anywhere from 75 to up to like 125 raw. And it sells usually within, the first 30 minutes that it's listed. It's usually the first person that happens to stumble upon the listing actually, just hits the buy it now. It's that difficult of a card to find. And I don't know if there's people out there that have hoarded that card or not, but it's tough. Like if you happen to have any 94 finest refractors laying around, definitely check and see if you have a Glenn Milburn, because you may think it's only $1, $2, $3 card, but that card is over $100. The next one, now we're kind of getting into the superstar players, the best of the best. Michael Irvin, PSA 9. This one is a Pop 7 as a 9. And obviously on the star players that we're going to start getting to now, there's, obviously way more of the star players have been submitted. A lot of people, just collect players or teams. There's not many people out there that are crazy enough to try to do the entire set graded like I am. There is actually one PSA 10 of this card, and it's on eBay right now. I think he has it listed for like $400, and it's a PSA 10, but it has horrible centering. I can't allow myself to buy it. It's just that bad. Next up we have Barry Sanders. There's actually 73 Barry Sanders in a PSA 9. but there's only 7 PSA 10s. And I don't know if you can see it on this, but right there, there's like, these are very notorious for having refractor lines. I don't know if you can kind of see that or not on this right side right here. You can kind of see it right there. But yeah, only 7 PSA 10s of Barry Sanders. And obviously all of these guys that I don't have PSA 10s of, I'm looking for at all times. Joe Montana, PSA 9 on Joe. There's 47 PSA 9s of Joe, only 5 PSA 10s. And once again, you can kind of see this one. It's really just kind of right here on the card. You can kind of see it right there. There's the refractor lines that run across it. Very seldom will you get a PSA 10 that has any refractor line at all. I mean, I will say I have seen a few 10s that, you know, have like a small refractor line, but usually you don't find those. John Elway, this is one of the most difficult cards in the set. There's only 19 PSA 9s of Elway, and you know that's pretty low considering how popular of a player he is. And there's only 2 PSA 10s out there. Next up, Reggie White. PSA 10 on Reggie. There's actually, I think there's 4 PSA 10s on Reggie White. This is one of the newest additions to the set. I was really stoked to get this one. Steve Young, PSA 10. This card is another one of those that's just, normally when you find it, it's horribly centered. Like this one is not 50-50, but way better than most you'll see. There's only 3 PSA 10s of Steve Young. Next up, Troy Aikman, PSA 10. Troy Aikman is actually one of the easier PSA 10s in the set. Like there's actually 10 PSA 10s of Aikman, and I've actually self-submitted 2 of those. One of them I got out of a pack, and the other one I got really lucky and bought it raw on eBay, I think for like, I want to say around 20 bucks. Jerome Bettis, the Bus. PSA 10 on Jerome Bettis. Jerome Bettis, that's a pop 8. Dan Marino, PSA 10 on Dan Marino. This is another one that's like super tough. And this is a PSA 10, but as you can see, the top to bottom centering is not perfect. But I guess this card is so difficult. I don't know. I guess they just let that one kind of slip through the cracks. That one is a PSA 10. There's only 4 Dan Marinos. We're down to the final 2 cards here, guys. Jerry Rice. Another super difficult one in a 10. There's only 3 10s of Jerry Rice, and if you come across one, they're going to cost you $500 or $600, as will the last guy I'm going to show you here, Mr. Brett Favre. As far as the guys, like the star players that have a PSA 10, I think Brett Favre is the most difficult. There's only 2 PSA 10s of Brett Favre, and I know there's so many Packers collectors and Favre collectors out there, so there's definitely been a lot of them submitted. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of and this is just a sample of the set that I have. Obviously, like I said, there's 220 cards in the set, and I have 80% of the set complete. So I'm not going to sit here and show you all of the 9s and a few of the cards that I have that are PSA 8s of some of the common guys. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So peace out.